Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. And we are very excited today. We have a big star with us. We've got Lee Biegel here. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be
Yeah.
here.
This is so cool for me. We were saying off air that I am a big Food Network fan. It's kind of my go-to relax and chill kind of programming. And so this was very exciting. I was like, she's legit famous. This is amazing.
Gosh, I mean, I'm gonna come on here all the time because you make me feel good about
Yes.
myself. I never think of myself as famous. That's so nice of you. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, why don't for people that aren't obsessed with Food Network like I am, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I have a cooking show on Food Network called The Kitchen. We've been on now for like 9 years, which I still
Unbelievable.
can't believe how long it's been because it feels like yesterday that show started. And I just love it so much. I love my co hosts, and we have a great time. And I write cookbooks. My last cookbook was called It's Not Complicated. And I have a wonderful husband named Ryan and a little baby girl named Iris and a dog named Gus. And that's me in a nutshell.
Yeah, you're living a good life. That's so cool. So you started off working in restaurants, is that right?
Well, I pretty much grew up in my grandma's kitchen. I am from a family that was obsessed with food, and we were always talking about what we were going to eat at our next meal while we were eating the current meal. So I just always grew up loving food, loving to cook. And then when I was in college, I was a journalism major, and I started to get really into food. I was working in restaurants in college, and I felt like, hey, maybe this is what I want to do. Maybe I want to be a food writer,
Mm-hmm.
and that was my ultimate goal. And then after college, I moved to New York. I moved to Long Island, to the Hamptons, where I'm living right now, and I worked in a fish market. And then I started writing a little food blog. I'm writing for local magazines, and it just kind of evolved into this career.
That's so cool. So you went from doing the blog to writing your first cookbook.
Hmm.
Just so what is that like writing a cookbook? I mean, did they kind of say come to you and say this is what we need and then you write kind of formulate, or do you I know you spend a lot of time testing out the recipes and things like that, but what's that all process like?
So the first cookbook I did, I had no idea what I was doing. And I went in and had a meeting with the publisher, and they said, "Well, a cookbook's typically 125 recipes. Can you do that?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, no problem. I've got 125 recipes." And really I was thinking, how the hell am I going to do this?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what I did, and I still do the same method that I did then. I buy a 3 ring binder, and I get dividers of appetizers, salads, soups, entrees. So it's like I'm doing a school project,
Hmm.
and I start doing my recipes. And every time I write one, I print it off and I put it in the section where it could go. And I keep a table of contents, and I start looking. That's how it comes to shape. I look at it and I think like, okay, well, I've got plenty of salads now. I'm really light on entrees, or I've got too many desserts, or you know what, I already did a peach cobbler. I shouldn't do a peach tart. So I can kind of look at it that way. I'm very tactile. Like I want a book to hold, like the 3 ring binder, and not just to have it on a computer. I like to be able to see it in front of me and to be able to write and make notes on it. So that's how I do it. I still do it the exact same way. That was 2007 when I wrote my first book, and I haven't changed my method.
Do you get tired of testing certain recipes? You're just like, I never want to eat another piece of cake again, or yeah.
Yes. Yes. I'll get frustrated sometimes if I can't get something to be exactly how I want it, or I'll make something and I'll think this is good, and I'll give it to Ryan, and he'll taste it and go, "If you want me to be honest, I think this could be better." and I'll get mad at him and say, "What are you talking about? That's really good." And then about an hour later, I'll say, "You're right. I think that I could have put more ginger in that, or
Mm,
maybe I should have used a different type of noodle." And so then I'll do it again, and inevitably I say, "Okay, I'm really glad that you gave me your honest opinion because now I think this is a better recipe,
yeah.
and you were
Well, that's like
right."
relationship goals. That's what you want is somebody who
Mhm. I appreciate his honesty. At the
yeah.
moment, I get mad at him, but then it
Yeah.
works out.
Yeah. 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 So on a show like The Kitchen, do they come to you with segments and say, we want you to demonstrate whatever?
Mhm.
Or do you go to them, or is this a mixture of both?
So most of the time, what we do, our culinary producers come up with a theme, and our producers come up with a theme of each episode, and they'll plug in who's going to do which act. So they might come to me, and we'll do a brainstorming meeting about the upcoming episodes, and they'll say, "Okay." Like we just were doing Thanksgiving the other day, our brainstorm, which I can't believe I'm buying corn and tomatoes and already talking about Thanksgiving. But they'll
Oh,
come and they'll
yeah.
say, "Okay, so we'd really like you to do a Southern inspired side dish that you modernize. What would you make?" So I'll give them 3 or 4 different ideas of recipes, and then they'll put that all in their notes, and then they'll go back and look at what everybody else has given in their brainstorming meetings, and then they'll craft the episode as to everything that goes together and what makes sense. And they can look and say, "Oh, we don't really want you to use sausage in this recipe because Jeff's doing a recipe with sausage in that episode," so that it makes sense for our viewers and that it's really well rounded. And I think that's what makes the show successful is that they're very mindful about what our viewers want to see and what's going to be the most helpful for them. Now, we'll also have times where I might be on vacation and I have a dish that I love and I email my producers and, well, actually, that's exactly what happened with an upcoming episode. We were on our family vacation in Italy this summer, and I had this dish that was all different types of pasta with a lentil sauce. And I emailed them and said, "Hey, I think this would be a great dish to make for a money saving episode because it's using all the ends and pieces of the pasta that you've got left in different boxes in your pantry. And Iris actually ate it. So let's make it." So we're doing that in an upcoming episode.
Oh, nice. Yeah, and lentils are really cheap source of protein.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello. I'm Hannah.
And I'm Katie, and we have a podcast called
One kiss means forever. Do you love made for TV rom-coms?
Are you obsessed with Hallmark and all the Hallmark inspired copycats that have come out on other platforms like Netflix?
And while being obsessed, do you know that these are not what one might call quality film?
If so, come listen to our podcast. Each episode, we discuss one movie that did not have a theatrical release and always ends in a happily ever after.
And how do we know it will end in a happily ever after?
Because one kiss means forever, of course.
So join us as we deep dive into each movie for about 45 minutes.
Episodes drop every other Thursday, except during the very elongated Hallmark Christmas season when we join the Christmas craze and go weekly for about 2.5 months. Bye!
Is it hard to get everything in such short segments for the
Um,
recipes?
Not really. I think at this point we've gotten where we kind of know how to get those top points in that we want to make. And
Mhm.
also in comparison to doing a morning show, like when I do the Today Show and I've got 3 recipes in 3.5 minutes to get through, when I get 7 minutes on the kitchen, it's like, oh, I've got all the time in the world to make this dish.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. It seems like a really fun group on The Kitchen.
Oh, we have a
Yeah.
great time. I mean, we genuinely love each other. We have a text chain that all of us are on, and we're sending each
Mhm.
other pictures of our families and sending each other a note if somebody tells us that they love the show and had a meaningful moment. So it it's real what people see, and I think that that's why viewers connect to the show because people watching TV are smart. They know when you like
Mhm.
each other,
Yeah.
and we really do.
Yeah. Well, so what's it like to do a show like Beach Bites where you're going into other establishments, trying other people's food?
I had a great time doing Beach Bites. I always say Beach Bites is the show that changed my life because that's where I met my husband.
Oh,
And we just really hit it off and both have such a love of food. But I got to travel to such cool places and I got to have so many great things to eat. I just loved doing that show. And, obviously we're not doing it anymore, but it is on Discovery Plus. So I do hear from people now who didn't see it when it first aired, who are watching it now. And I
hmm.
love that it's just kind of living on that way.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it must be fun to, go into people's kitchens and see them make a
Mhm.
recipe and try to, I'm sure they're nervous and try to uh, make them feel comfortable.
Yeah, for the most part, I felt like people were pretty confident because they were in their own kitchen, but every once in a while I'd be with somebody that was nervous and I'd think, "Okay, how am I gonna make this person feel comfortable and feel good?" And, maybe they've never been on camera before and all of a sudden they have to get on here and cook and talk about
Hmm.
their dish. I found that when you got somebody talking about their food, that would always get them to relax.
Yeah.
And people like telling their stories, and that was what I loved the most about that show was hearing people's stories and hearing why they make this dish in their restaurant and where their inspiration came
Hmm.
from. And I learned so much, and I learned a lot about our country. I went to places in the US that I'd never been before that I might not have thought about for a beach vacation that I absolutely loved.
Yeah. Well, you were the host for the first season of Top Chef. How did that all
Yes.
happen?
Oh my gosh, that was a million years ago. I got an email through my blog one day from the
Oh my
producers of the
gosh.
show, and I Googled, like, are these real people or is this fake? And I went in the next day to Rockefeller Center to NBC and I read for it. And 2 days later, I flew to San Francisco and filmed the show.
Wow. I mean, that's
Yeah.
amazing that they would go with a blogger writer for a
Mhm.
host. That's
Yeah, they probably shouldn't have. I think that they were at the last minute and they were really under the gun.
uh-huh.
I was totally inexperienced, totally green, and I didn't like being mean to people. I didn't like
Yeah.
cutting people, and I was it just it wasn't right. I
Yeah.
appreciate that I had that opportunity. It got my foot in the door in this business so much, but it wasn't the right fit for either one of
Yeah.
us.
Well, it must have been fun when you went back for All Stars though, just for that episode.
Yes.
Yeah, that must have been
Yes, it
good.
was. It was
Yeah.
fun. Yeah, I had a good time.
Cool. And you have beaten Bobby Flay. Well, your chefs have beaten Bobby Flay a number of
Mhm,
times.
mhm.
That must be
Yes.
very fun.
Well, most of the time we lose
Yeah.
because Bobby's so good. But the moments that we get to beat Bobby, I always get really excited about because he so rarely gets beaten. And I love Bobby. He's like an older brother, and I love to give him a hard time. So I'd say probably just as many people come up to me and say, "Hey, I watch you on Beat Bobby Flay," as I watch you on the
Yeah.
kitchen.
You gotta like elbow the chefs and be like, make a cake or Asian food.
Uh-huh. Whenever
That's
somebody
when you're
says they're
gonna
making
win.
something that's Southwest or barbecue, I go, "Oh, why are you making
Yeah.
that? Don't make a burger against Bobby.
Don't
Don't
make
make anything
brunch.
Southwest. Like, don't use Calabrian chilies or pomegranate molasses. Like, just let
Yeah.
him do that."
Yeah. I feel like cake, pastry, and Asian food is
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Yeah.
where you want to
Yeah, you
be.
have it. Anytime somebody does pastry, it's like, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so you wrote this book Groundswell in 2011. It was when it was
Mhm.
published. How did that end up happening? Did you always want to be a writer? How did you end up writing this book?
It's pretty crazy that that was 2011 and it's just now becoming a movie. I had always wanted to be a writer, that's what I went to school for. And it
Hmm.
was my dream to write a novel. I had tried several times. So I always thought if I was going to write a novel, it needed to have a food tie in. And I'd write about a girl who worked in a bakery or a young chef, and none of the stories would stick. It was just like they just sucked, to be honest. So I was getting divorced. Started taking surf lessons. I'd always been really afraid of the ocean, and I started taking surf lessons, and I fell in love with surfing and the way that it made me feel. And I was getting out of the water one day, and I was walking up on the beach carrying my surfboard. I just remember it so vividly in my head. And I thought, this is the story I should write. And I went in the house and I started writing, and that was it. And that was Groundswell.
Mm.
And I took an outline of it to the same publisher who had done my cookbooks at the time and asked them if they'd be interested. And they said yes, and bought the book. And then I realized, okay, I have to write this or I have to give the check back. So, so it was the greatest motivation I'd ever had to write.
Yeah. So would you say this movie is a loose adaptation? Because I read the book, and it's more
Uh,
the very end of the book, I would say.
yeah, the book and the movie are quite different.
Yeah.
Emma, who is the lead character, is a chef in the movie. So she does have more similarities to me in that regard, that she is passionate about food. And I really love what Hallmark did with it. And the writers did such a good job of adapting this book and making it current. And, it was written in 2011. So bringing it up to speed and giving the characters a new life. And I think that's what it's all about. Sometimes we'll read a book and see the movie and go, oh, it didn't follow it enough. Well, it's a totally different medium, and it's this a new life for these characters, and what the core values of the book and theme are there, which is about learning to pick yourself up and take care of yourself, and to not necessarily need someone else to complete you, but when you do really love yourself, that's when you can find love. And I think so much of what it's about is just finding your own power and finding that inside of you. And the metaphor of surfing, getting up on your own 2 feet, like having that leash connecting you to your board where you can fall and pull yourself back up.
Mm. Yeah. So Emma in the book is married to this movie star named Garrett,
Mm-hmm.
and then goes through a divorce.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, since this was written in 2011, that must have been easy to connect with for you.
Yeah, I had just gotten divorced, so I pulled from that experience. It's not it's not my story,
Yeah, it's not a
but
memoir.
I think any writer takes from their past experience for every character. I mean, how else do you get in somebody's head? But in the movie, Emma is a chef and Garrett is also a chef. And they're not married, they're dating and have a breakup.
Okay. Yeah.
And then Emma goes, oh, watch this, Garrett.
Yeah.
You think you're so hot, you're not. and she goes and meets Ben, the hot surfer hunk.
Yeah. So you must have been excited when you heard Lacey Chabert is going to be playing.
Oh, let me tell you. First of all, when I heard Hallmark was doing the book, the first person I said that I wanted was Lacey. And so when I found out that Lacey said yes, I was over the moon. And the way that this all happened was actually my best friend, her husband, his name is Ricky Golden. Ricky was on All My Children for years, Guiding Light. People know him as a soap star. Now he does producing. He just said to me one day, hey, do you mind if I try to sell your book to Hallmark to make a movie? And I said, nobody else is doing anything with it. Have at it. Go for it. And he did it. And Ricky pushed and pushed and got this made, because that was 2018. And now here we are, 2022, when it got made.
Wow. So you got to, I think, go over to Hawaii when they were making it?
Yes. I got to go to Hawaii, which I was so excited about. I think Hawaii had some of the best food in the world.
Yeah.
I was super excited to get to go eat. And speaking of Top Chef, Leanne Wong, who was on the first season of Top Chef, was one of our cast members. So I have a cameo
Oh.
in the movie where I'm playing myself, and we needed I'm judging a culinary competition. We needed a second judge, and I suggested Leanne. So it was a real full circle moment in that regard as well. So Leanne and I judged the culinary competition, and it was super fun. And I loved getting to be on screen, and I loved getting to watch Emma and Ben or Lacey and Hector. But I also got to be there when they filmed their final scene, which, I mean, I guess, is it giving anyway? I won't
Well,
say
I mean, they
anything. Never
always
mind.
get together, and
I mean,
it's not a
obviously, yeah,
spoiler.
yeah, not a spoiler. But I got to
Shocker.
see the kiss. I got to see the
Nice.
kiss.
That's so cool. Yeah, I'm with you on this, on the surfing thing. I've only been surfing one time, but I thoroughly loved it. And I love Hawaii, and I love the North Shore. It's
Amazing.
Oahu. It's heaven.
It's beautiful. We filmed on the same ranch where they filmed Jurassic Park.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
It was
cool.
gorgeous, stunning.
Yeah, on Oahu, that
Yes,
island. Yeah.
on
Oh,
Oahu. Yeah. Yeah, it was so beautiful. They'd be like, your call time's 4:30 a.m. And I'd think, oh God. but I'd get picked up, and it'd still be dark out, and we'd be driving the coast there, and the sun would be coming up, and the pink sky. I mean, it was magic.
oh. And you're right about the food there. Oh, like the
Oh,
shrimp, the
it's
shrimp
so good.
trucks. I just,
Oh, delicious, that garlic shrimp.
yes.
And we had huli chicken. I stopped at a roadside place that was right there where we were filming, and got the chicken. And Leanne knew another place that was a poi factory that we went and got. It was like one great meal after another.
Yeah, and like the masadas in the morning, like big and puffy. And
I'm starving now.
Yeah. Yes.
And the food scenes in the movie are really beautiful. They did a great job, and Lacey really looks like she's in there styling and chopping, and she just was great.
Yeah. Well, what do you hope people take away from this movie?
I hope that people are thoroughly entertained more than anything. I hope that they have a moment of escapism watching all these beautiful shots of Hawaii. I hope that they lose themselves in the love story of Emma and Ben, and just really enjoy it. I love to watch TV more than anything. When people say, what are your hobbies aside from cooking? It's watching TV, because I love getting into a story. So I hope people watch this and really get into the story. And I remember actually when my book first came out, women reaching out to me and saying, oh, this made me feel stronger in my relationship. I dumped my fiance after this. I was like, oh God, making life changes based on Groundswell. But, I hope that people watch it and feel like a sense of strength within themselves, and the what it means to stand up for yourself and what you want. And sometimes losing everything you thought you wanted is how you find exactly what you need.
Yeah. Well, I'm really looking forward to seeing it. That's for sure. And we got to get you, because we had Ree Drummond doing a Christmas movie last year. So we got to get you on the Christmas movie circuit.
Oh, see, I love Christmas movies. If I got to do a Christmas movie, I'd lose my mind.
It would be amazing.
I loved Ree's Christmas movie,
it was
by
cute.
the way.
It
was so good. She was great.
Yes.
We'd like to take a second from this episode of the podcast to celebrate our sponsor of this episode, and that is the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast?
Do you want an inside scoop into what happens on the podcast?
Do you want early access to episodes and loads of cool perks?
Now is the time to become a patron of Hallmarkies podcast.
By becoming a patron, you get to access our patron Facebook group.
You can request episodes or even be a guest on the podcast.
And most importantly, any patron can join our monthly movie watch-alongs with stars like Paul Campbell, Natalie Hall, and more.
It's as low as $2 a month to join in and become a special part of the Hallmarkies family.
Please consider, and we will love you forever.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
We have some fun, silly questions. We like to end the
I
interview.
love
off with.
silly.
Yes. All right. First question. What is the best ice cream flavor?
Mint chocolate chip.
Good one. All right. What is your favorite color?
Purple.
Oh, mine too.
Because my daughter's name's Iris. So it's either blue or like purpley blue, like an iris flower.
Cute.
I almost said pink because she's obsessed with pink right now.
Oh, that's so cute. All right. What music are you into?
I like right now I'm listening to the Sirius station Yacht Rock constantly because it's like summer music and I love it.
Nice. Okay. What is your go-to date night food? This is like a loaded question for
Pasta.
you. Pasta.
We love our pasta.
Yum. What do you think is a good go-to date night activity if you're going out and doing something?
One of the best dates that Ryan took me on when we first started dating, we went to Chinatown and we got Chinese food and then got foot massages.
Oh,
That was the best.
Yeah, that's cute. Okay. What do you like better, dogs or cats?
Dogs. We're dog people, but I do like cats as well.
Beaches or mountains? I think
Beaches.
Yes.
I'm from the mountains. I'm from West Virginia, but I love the beach.
Okay. What is your favorite holiday to celebrate?
Christmas. Oh, I take that back. Well, I love Christmas, but I love Thanksgiving because I love Thanksgiving food.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you get tired of, I know that it's a lot covering Thanksgiving for food media.
It is. At one year, it was Thanksgiving and I'd already made 7 turkeys at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like our Super Bowl.
Yes. All right. Last question. What is your favorite Hallmark or romantic movie?
Oh, well, my favorite romantic movie has to be When Harry Met Sally.
Good one.
I love When Harry Met Sally and I love all Nancy Meyers movies. In fact, Lee Friedlander, who's our director on Groundswell, she also is a Nancy Meyers fan. So we both were hoping to evoke Nancy Meyers-ish feelings with Groundswell.
You have the beautiful kitchens.
Yes.
Well, very good. You answered all the questions.
Awesome. I love doing this. This was so fun talking about food and Groundswell and Hallmark, all great things.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And good luck with the movie. And do you have social media or anything you want to promote?
I'm at Katie Lee Biegel on Instagram. So follow me.
Great. We'll have that in the description. So everybody should check it out. And thanks again for coming to talk with us. Perfect. It was great to meet you.
Yay, great to meet you too.
Okay. Bye.
Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. Bye.
I'd like to thank Katie for coming on the podcast. This was so much fun to get to talk with her. I had a blast. And so we'll have a link down to Groundswell, her book, in the description if you want to check that out, affiliate link. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. Also, make sure you're following the podcast at Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media. And if you're listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That helps us so much. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our Patreon group and merch store, so take a look at that. And thanks again to Katie, and we'll talk to y'all later. Bye, everyone.